Hey everyone, I'm Erica.
And I'm Elizabeth.
We're sisters, wine lovers, and your hosts for the podcast Spirits Uncorked.
In season 2, we're leaving the haunted waters of Lake Lanier in Georgia and diving into all new spooky stuff. Shadow people?
I've seen them.
Haunted military bases?
I've served on one.
Local restaurants with ghostly reputations?
I work at one.
Okay, if something spooky doesn't happen to you, I worry about you.
The paranormal is my normal.
Plus, we'll sip and chat with horror authors, fascinating guests, and test out some superstitions along the way.
Knock on wood.
So uncork a bottle and pour a glass of the paranormal with us on season 2 of Spirits Uncorked.
Get ready for sips, scares, and sisterly sarcasm.
If you're enjoying the podcast you're listening to right now, and you've got a love of the paranormal, then I'm Rob Kirkup, and I think you might enjoy my show, How Haunted. Every other Friday, I take you to some of the most haunted locations across the UK, with the occasional trip overseas, as we explore the dark history behind each place, and the terrifying ghost stories said to haunt them. Across the year, there are seasonal specials too, including Christmas episodes packed with real listener ghost stories. And every October, the podcast goes weekly, a themed month building towards a big Halloween spooktacular. You'll also join me on real paranormal investigations, ghost hunts in seriously unsettling locations, with audio from the night so you can hear what happens as it happens. So if you're ready for creepy locations, grim history, and stories that follow you long after the lights go out, search How Haunted wherever you get your podcasts. And join me as together we ask, How Haunted?
Welcome to Supernatural Japan. I'm your host, Kevin O'Shea, and this is the podcast where we visit the darker side of Japan's history. This evening, we sit down for a conversation with regular contributor and listener favorite, Phillip Jackson. Originally from the UK, Phillip is a Kyoto-based writer and travel guide, and has brought us such books as Paranormal Japan, Paranormal Kansai, Hidden Paths Kyoto, which is a great series of travel books, and Paranormal Kyoto, Mysteries and Unexplained Stories of the Imperial City. In this episode, he joins us to have a great spooky chat and share some stories about the Gate of 100 Beatings and the cursed mansion of Yoshioka, Gondayu. Sit back and enjoy this conversation about the darker side of Japanese history. All right, so folks, another episode, we're back, and it's great to have a guest on. Not just any guest, we have regular contributor to Supernatural Japan, Phillip Jackson. Phillip, thank you for coming back on the show.
Thanks for inviting me back, Kevin. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have you, and I enjoy the chances when I get to talk to someone and interact. Just before the mics went on, we were talking about how sometimes I would like episodes to be a little bit longer, but there maybe in the stories there's not enough quite meat to make enough meat on the bone to make the stories longer. So sometimes the episodes are relatively short, but that's the nature of the beast when you're a solo podcaster. But you're here, and you've been on the show many times before. But we have a lot of new listeners to Supernatural Japan who may not know who you are. So, Phillip, would you be able to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, where you are, what you do, and how you became interested in the paranormal?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm in Kyoto. I live in Kyoto in an area called Uji. And I first came to Japan in 1998. My wife is Japanese. Lived here from 2003 to 2007. Went back to my home country, the UK, for a few years, and then came back to Japan in 2012, and been here in Kyoto since then. So I've always had an interest in history and paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, things like that, from as long as I can remember being a child. So I think we've spoken before.
Yeah.
You know, the books that were out, Osborne books.
Which you tagged me in a great post on X just a couple of days ago that the Osborne.
The World of the Unknown, all about ghosts, wasn't
Yeah.
it? So, you know, those Osborne books were on my bookshelf when I was, you know, maybe 7 or 8 years old. Myself and my brother, we had a great interest. Another one by the famous ghost hunter Peter Underwood. I had a book called The Ghost Hunter's Handbook, and also 70s was the time of Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World TV show. I don't know if you saw that one in Canada.
No, did not.
But yeah, that was a favorite in the UK, late 70s, early 80s. And I grew up in a village in North England, so there was quite a few old houses. So yeah, my brother and I decided that all these old farm buildings must obviously be haunted. So
Makes sense.
yeah. I mean, we never got the chance to find out, but those little things growing up as a child that, you know, spark an interest. And I've had that interest, you know, since then, and then connecting that with history. As you know, I've written a series of walking guidebooks called Hidden Paths, Walking Historical Kyoto. And it was mainly during the COVID time, when I couldn't get out to do any hikes or walking, that I started reading more about other locations to go to in the future. And a lot of these locations were coming up with, you know, folklore tales or haunted tales. And that's when I put together the book Paranormal Kansai, because there was just a lot of stories.
Yeah.
That then led to the next book, Paranormal Japan, and then we started talking around that time.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, shared interest and getting in touch, and then finally meeting up in Japan to go on some treks in Kyoto, haunted locations. But yeah, I mean, I've had that interest ever since a child, and I think everybody has a little bit of an interest, if they're honest, that you know, curious about the unknown, whether it's you know, the ghostly side of it, the UFO side of it, you know, cryptic creatures, Hibagon in Japan.
Yeah.
Bigfoot in North America.
Well, it's amazing how many people will say, like, for example, like, I don't believe, but I want to, or like, I you know, I don't believe in Bigfoot, but I kind of, part of me really hopes that Bigfoot exists.
I know somebody who always says, I don't believe in witches, but they exist.
Okay. There you go.
So basically saying, you know, I'm not going to say there's something there. I'm not going to admit to it, but in the back of my mind, there's something strange going on.
And I think too, potentially, you know, even kind of pre-COVID, or maybe, you know, when we were maybe younger adults, a lot of people maybe have been hesitant to say they believe in these things, or they're interested in these topics for fear of being made fun of, or people thinking they're weird. But I think COVID really changed a lot. I mean, COVID was the boom era really for podcasts, because everyone was at home and recording things. But even for me, I always had an interest in the topic, but it was during, and I've always been a huge podcast consumer, but it wasn't until COVID, when I would have lots of free time and lots of time to go for walks every day, when I wasn't working because schools were closed, that I found all these kind of spooky podcasts and started listening to them, which then got me super interested back in the topic, and got me interested in creating this podcast. And then meeting you, reading your books. So now it's just, obviously we're at this, you know, over 100 episodes of Supernatural Japan. It has lit a paranormal fire underneath me, so to speak.
I mean, interesting mentioning about COVID as well. I remember growing up in the 80s, hearing stories in the UK of these big cats.
Okay, yeah. Like the Panthers.
The Beast of Bodmin Moor and things like that. And back then in the 80s, it was, you know, there might be a grainy photograph that hits the front page of the newspaper. Somebody had seen it. But it was, as you said, nobody believed. and these big cats became some sort of mythical cryptic creature, maybe in the same category as as Bigfoot or something
or
like that. Or
chupacabra or something like that.
Yeah. But during COVID time, when there was nobody about, people started reporting seeing these big cats not in the forests or in the farmers' fields at a distance. People started reporting seeing them in their back gardens. And it became a bit more of a believable thing. There's nobody around, so these things are coming out in the open, and we can see what they are.
Yeah.
And the thought is that maybe these big cats, because back in the 60s you could buy imported big cats at department stores like Harrods as a pet.
Oh, wow.
But what would happen is they might get too big, and then people would release them, and then eventually they changed the law so that you couldn't keep them. So some people who had them, obviously you had to have a lot of money to be able to purchase one.
Yeah.
But they just let them go. And the idea is that maybe these cats have bred in the wild. So they don't get seen very often because there's not a huge amount of them. But there's enough to actually think now this is a real thing. And you wonder, are any other of these cryptic creatures one day going to be classed as real things? Even David Attenborough, the acknowledged David Attenborough has said, as far as the Yeti, his exact quote was, "There could be something in that."
Well, I believe he was always he is a big believer in the Yeti, from what I'd heard. Yeah, well, it's interesting because, of course, in the genre too, you hear all kinds of different things. Everything from kind of more folkloric beliefs, stories that are believable, to we listen to podcasts where things are really out there, and sometimes maybe we could refer to them as maybe tinfoil hat type things. But one of the cool things that I found over the years of making Supernatural Japan is I love unpacking just the kind of folklore, the stories, when you're learning about yokai, all the lessons that were behind them, moral lessons about safety, cautionary tales. And so folks that are listening, if you go back into the back catalog of Supernatural Japan, there are several episodes where I've met up with Phillip in person in Japan. We've recorded, we've gone on some hiking adventures together, looking at paranormal haunted spots. And today, Phillip is back to talk about a few new spots that I'm unfamiliar with. So I'm looking forward to learning. So what are the places you're going to be chatting with us about today?
As you said, normally we're out and about on location. But where you are, where I am, it's a rainy day today, so can't do that. But one of the locations I was considering going to is it's called the Hyaku Tataki no Mon, the Gate of 100 Beatings. And
that sounds very ominous. The Gate of 100 Beatings.
It involves cries of pain, blood, and beatings.
Wow.
And it's a story from Kyoto. And one of the reasons I found it interesting is because it originates from almost my neighborhood. And last time we spoke, I was over near Fushimi Castle, the replica Fushimi Castle.
Yeah.
But the original Fushimi Castle, which was built late 1500s, it had its own prison, and this is a story relating to that. So basically, when the warlord ruler of Japan, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, which anybody who's into Japan's history will have come across that name, he died in 1598, and his castle at Fushimi was taken over by Tokugawa Ieyasu. Ieyasu at the time was one of the 5 great elders. So he took over the castle, and he, as a warden of the castle, he placed another samurai, Mototada Tori, and a garrison of troops at the castle to basically guard it, take care of it. And with the passing of Hideyoshi, Ieyasu decided that he would lead his clan, the Tokugawa, from their power base in Kanto, Edo, which is today's Tokyo. They wanted to expand across the whole of the country and basically control the whole country. And as events unfolded, word came to Ieyasu that another daimyo, the Lord Ishida Mitsunari, he was advancing towards Fushimi Momoyama Castle with about 40,000 warriors. And Ieyasu, though, he needed time to regroup his forces from the east. So the only option was for Tori Mototada to hold off Ishida at Fushimi for as long as possible. And that siege started on August 27th, 1600, as modern calendars. And that siege basically gave Ieyasu about 12 days to prepare his troops for what would eventually become the Battle of Sekigahara.
Okay.
Now, the Battle of Sekigahara, another famous name for anybody who knows, even a little bit of Japanese history, is the defining battle when the Tokugawa clan basically stamped their boots on control of the whole country. Mm. And then we had Tokugawa shogunate for about the next 250 years. But by the end of the siege at Fushimi Castle, Ishida, he took the castle, and Tori Mototada and the remaining troops that were inside, they all committed seppuku, ceremonial suicide. Eventually the castle was dismantled in 1623. The Tokugawa shogunate had a system of one castle per daimyo area to avoid other, strategic positions for other military coups and things like that. And different parts of the castle, when it was dismantled, were distributed around Japan to other buildings or other temples in Kyoto. And in an area of Kyoto called Kamigyo Ward, just northwest of Nijo Castle, there is a temple called Kannonji, which is part of the Jodo sect. And the connection between the temple and Fushimi Castle is that the temple gate is the original gate of the Fushimi Castle prison. And that gate has become known as the Hyakutataki no Mon, the gate of 100 beatings.
Okay.
Mon means gate, hyaku, 100, and then the beatings, tataki. So this gate, 2.5 meters high, and the prison gate called a Jurakuden was moved to Kannonji after 1623. And now we come on to the paranormal side of the story.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's just, it's just a wooden gate. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong with taking a wooden gate from a prison and putting it somewhere else?
Yeah. So just going back to earlier history, the 16th century was Momoyama period, because Toyotomi Hideyoshi was based at Momoyama Castle in Fushimi. And it was a time of, flourishing trade. There was even trade with foreign countries. Those in the upper echelons of the samurai culture, they lived a very nice life. But it was a little bit different for the ordinary folks. And wars were going on, taxes were levied, and because of this, crime increased. Theft became rampant in the towns. The number of vagrants increased. And basically, public order in Kyoto was just, in a mess. Mm. It wasn't a safe place to be. And to be honest, over the centuries, historically, Kyoto has not really been a safe place to be.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Whether you go back to, the early Tokugawa, the late Momoyama, Heian era, depending on which class you were in, the time of the end of the Tokugawa, if you were on the wrong side, it was a dangerous place to live, to be. And so what they did was the high crime means high levels of incarceration. And so the prison at Fushimi Castle, where offenders were held, you can imagine it quickly filled up. So because there was no more room to house the growing number of inmates, solution was introduced in that those who committed sort of minor offences, instead of being locked away, they would just be given a beating, 100 lashes, 100 beatings, and that would be given out at the prison gates.
Okay.
Now, it sounds like a good way to deal with a situation. You know, you've just committed a minor offence. We're not going to lock you up. We'll just give you a beating. You know, you'd think that some people might think they got off quite lightly. But since the beatings were pretty harsh.
100 is a lot of lashes. If they're using like a whip of some kind, that sounds like the kind of thing that could kill people.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they did it, but it did end up sometimes with fatalities.
Okay.
So it wasn't necessarily a let-off. Some people probably would have been happier to thrown in a prison cell and the key discarded.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. Shortly after the gate was relocated to Kannonji Temple, then a rumor began to spread among the people living near the gate that if you pass by Kannonji Temple at night, you can hear people crying. So word quickly spread, and eventually people became afraid to pass by Kannonji Temple at night. And the head priest was troubled by this story, to say the least. So he decided to find out the truth. And one night, he watched the gate, hoping to discover what was causing the reports of these torturous cries of pain. And as he sat and waited, a gust of wind blew open a small door on the side of the main gate. And from inside, he heard this pained groan that sounded like a sad, almost weeping scream. And then, upon hearing the sound, the head priest thought, you know, surely the spirit of the sinner who died from those beatings must be haunting this gate. And so for the next 100 days, to try and free the spirit, he fasted and continuously chanted Buddhist prayers. And after that, it's said that the sinner's spirit, as was thought to be haunting the gate, must have found peace, as the groaning sound and the screaming sounds was not heard after that. But today it's said that the gate is still there.
Okay.
But it's said that the small door next to the main gate entrance is actually nailed shut, so it's sealed. So, you know, who knows?
With Plan B emergency contraception, we're in control of our future. It's backup birth control you take after unprotected sex that helps prevent pregnancy before it starts. It works by temporarily delaying ovulation, and it won't impact your future fertility. Plan B is available in all 50 U.S. states at all major retailers near you, with no ID, prescription, or age requirement needed. Together, we've got this. Follow Plan B on Insta at Plan B One Step to learn more. Use as directed.
Announcing GoblinCon UFO and Paranormal Expo 2026, featuring over 50 vendors, 2 full days of speakers, educational workshops, and intriguing panels. Enjoy fun for the whole family with a puppet show, Little Goblin Fun Zone, arcade games, and more. So join us August 22nd and 23rd at the Bruce Convention Center in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. General admission is $10. Children 12 and under are free. $150 VIP packages include fun for the whole weekend. For more information, visit GoblinConKY.com.
Whether that's on purpose or whether it is, it's one of those locations. As I said at the beginning, I was thinking about going out there today.
Yeah.
And maybe we could have recorded from them, but we've got thunderstorms and rains today. But if it's sealed shut, if it's opened, maybe the groans and screams might be heard again.
Maybe. And I think too, like this, of course, the skeptical side of me has to say, probably just the wind howling through a small opening. But but you never know. Maybe there's something more to it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but
so is this gate located? This place where it's located, is that kind of off the beaten path in Tokyo? Or no, sorry, in Kyoto, not a common place where many people would find. You said it's not far from Nijo Castle, right?
It is, yeah. Well, as we've discussed many times about the idea of over tourism in Kyoto, and as we've said, in my opinion, there's no over tourism in Kyoto. It's mismanaged tourism.
Yeah.
You've got,
too many
you've got
people in
Gion.
just too many people in a few places, right? They're not spread out.
You've got about 4 or 5 places that are labeled as must-see sites, and they just get advertised to death. And so everybody goes there. So Nijo Castle is famous. I mean, actually, the last 2 times I went to Nijo Castle, it's a very spacious location. So
yeah, I was just going to say that. Like, we went to Nijo Castle in 2023, my family and I. I'd never been there before. And so much of Kyoto when we were there, 2023, still the tourist boom had begun. But Nijo Castle, I mean, there was not a lot of people there. And also, even if there are, it is such, like you said, spacious and spread out that there's lots of room for lots of people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the classic location is the old Imperial Palace, Gosho. It's a huge area, and most of it is either trees or just open pathways, open gravel pathways, or grass and gardens. And you could get the population of Kyoto in there, and you'd still feel like you had a lot of space to walk around.
Yeah.
So that's one location where, if somebody's going to come into Kyoto and they want to be in the center of Kyoto, I always say go to Gosho, go to the old Imperial Palace grounds, because you've just got so much space, and it's got the history and the gardens and buildings as well.
Yeah.
But the Kannonji Temple, it's probably about 1 kilometer away from Nijo, northwest. Okay. So if you were visiting Kyoto, especially Nijo, you probably wouldn't know about Kannonji unless you'd specifically done some homework and, what's around this area, or you knew this story. And it's sort of a narrow road. It's not a huge shrine. It's not a big shrine. So I think a lot of people wouldn't know about it, but it's definitely one to put on your lists if you're interested in the paranormal or Japanese history with a folklore or paranormal slant to it. It's definitely one to go and have a look at.
Nice. Now, you sent me a few different places. You sent me, and we're using Line to chat before. So, folks, Line is kind of the Japanese version of WhatsApp. You had mentioned the cursed mansion of Yoshioka Gondayu. I don't know. I probably didn't say that right.
Yeah.
What is? I don't know this place either. I've never heard of. Tell me more.
Well, the stories I chose for today have all got a connection to the Kyoto area, not around the sort of Fushimi. I'm in Uji City, but the next sort of area is Fushimi, famous for the sake breweries.
And the Inari Shrine, right? That's where all the tourists go. It's one of those hot spots, right? You've got the...
Which one's that, sorry?
Is it the Fushimi Inari Shrine? Isn't that
Fushimi Inari Taisha. Yeah, the Senbon Gate.
It's one of those 4 or 5 places in Kyoto where everyone goes, right? But they just go to that place. They just go to the shrine. Yeah,
and as you and I know, if you just go a little bit further south, you get Mount Oiwa and Oiwa Shrine, which is... much more interesting.
Oh, yeah. One of the spookiest places I've ever been to.
But this one, the Cursed Mansion of Yoshioka Gondayu, it's got connections to Fushimi and also Tokyo area as well. But in 1870, a man named Yoshioka Gondayu, he was imprisoned by the new Meiji government. And not long after, he died in prison. But in 1860, his story was a bit different. He'd sailed on Japan's first official visit to America. He had an official administrative post in the Navy, and he was also a member of the Department of Foreign Affairs. So, again, in history, he just ended up on the wrong side after a battle, basically. But after the shogunate powers returned to the emperor, the Meiji Restoration in 1868, new government was formed. But then in 1869, Yoshioka lost everything after the Boshin War. And then the new imperial Meiji government rounded up all of the members of the former military government and gave them a choice. They could surrender, admit guilt on false charges against them, and be released, but they would be dishonored, which if you're from the samurai class, losing your honor is quite a punishment, or it was. Or they could spend the rest of their days in a dark prison cell. And Yoshioka, he decided to keep his honor as a member of the old samurai ruling class, and he refused the demands. So he was thrown in prison, where not long after he died. But although Yoshioka's death seems to be political motivated, in 1932, his grandson published a book which was titled A Biographical Sketch of Yoshioka Gondayu. And in the book, Yoshioka's grandson laid the blame not on the Meiji government, but on the mansion house where Yoshioka had lived, a place which the grandson said was infused with evil energy. And after the Battle of Toba Fushimi in 1868, so this is where we get the Fushimi connection, in which the shogun was defeated, Yoshioka followed his lord, the shogun Tokugawa Yoshinobu, back to Edo, today's Tokyo. And even in defeat, Yoshioka, he was given a mansion to retire into. Because I think a lot of the samurai from that ruling class at the end, they thought that they would be kind of still part of the government. Even Tokugawa Yoshinobu, he expected to be in the new government. So that's why there was battles. He'd handed back power back in 1868, and then when they discovered that they weren't going to be allowed in the new government, that's when it came to fighting, basically. So Yoshioka, he was gifted this mansion, thought he would live out his retirement peacefully. But the house had formerly been the property of Vice Port Warden Kaishu Kimura. And although Kaishu had owned the mansion himself, he'd never lived there.
Okay.
Little red flag there. The mansion, it was said, was cursed and had caused the death of many of its residents. And the first person was a samurai named Nagai of the Bishu clan, who he'd been rebuked by his clan lord for some misdemeanors. He was sentenced to house arrest. And in the house, the mansion, Nagai became painfully ill and eventually took his own life. And then the next resident was a wealthy man who hung himself in a mansion, reasons unknown. And then there was Yoshioka, who died in prison not long after receiving and living in the property for a short time. So he hadn't been in the property very long, and then he was thrown into prison and then died a short time afterwards.
Okay.
After Yoshioka, the mansion fell into the hands of an unnamed man who used it for his secret affairs with his lover. And then one night, it said in a fit of madness, the man murdered his lover and then killed himself. He was found in the mansion, apparently sitting on the toilet, with his own sword through his body. And all told, around 6 or 7 residents of the mansion are said to have met with grim endings.
Well, that sounds pretty cursed.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of there being a curse, there's no actual foundation for a legend, no reason for the house to be cursed, no story there. And the only thing that seems to link these suicides, these illnesses, this madness, is that all the people had a link. They all lived at some point in this one house, in this one mansion. And then that builds the story, builds the legend.
Course. Yeah.
But, many legends have a grain of truth about them, many stories. And then over the years, but this seemed to happen in a short space of time, 1800s into the early 1900s. I'm trying to find out later history. I don't know if the building still exists.
Oh, that's what I was wondering. I was just going to ask you that. Are there ruins? Yeah. Does it still exist? Do you know where the potential location might be?
The only thing I found from the stories is that it was in Edo, which is present-day Tokyo.
So, okay. That could be anywhere.
if there's anybody out there listening who's heard this story before and has got any further details, I'm sure we'd both like to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll keep digging on that one.
Yeah. That's it's interesting because one thing we've talked about before is even, and I've talked about recently on some podcasts, it's just even the atmosphere of a house can breed folklore and legends. I mean, when you look at the episode I did about the haunted love motels, most of those haunted love motels, air quotes, haunted love motels, actually, there's nothing documented that happened there. There's no documented deaths or murders or suicides. It's literally, Haikyo enthusiasts, so urban explorers have gone to these places, and just the atmosphere is so creepy and so strange that it looks like the kind of place that should be haunted. It looks like the kind of place where things can go wrong. And we also know, and sometimes we like to poke fun at those who, there are those who are paranormal investigators or the Bigfoot researchers, where everything they look at is a red flag. Everything is a clue. Yeah. Everything is proof. If they hear the sound of the wind outside making something creak, that's a ghost. If there's a branch broken in the forest, clearly that was Bigfoot. So I think some people, psychologically, when they go to these places, maybe they want to see it. They want to believe.
Well, we the last trek we had was in Iwashimizu Hachimangu.
Yes, that's right.
The old suicide house. Mm-hmm. And it's and I would recommend, especially you said there's new listeners now who might not have listened the old episodes. Definitely check that one out. That was a really interesting trek out over the mountain and the sights, and but that's a house where, even if the stories are not true, you take one look at that house and it's got a feeling. It's got a presence.
It does. And I mean, even we visited that house in the daytime, and it's a very creepy place. Yeah. And then it was just like literally a couple of months later, you messaged me one Friday evening or something. You're like, check this out. You sent me a link, and there were some Japanese live streamers in the house, doing, with all the paranormal, all the ghost hunting tools and devices, doing their own kind of ghost hunt inside that house.
Yeah, I mean, next to me, where I am now, next to my house here, there's, I think I mentioned to you before, there's a Fujiwara gravesite, an ancient grave. The Fujiwara were a clan that was very influential on the imperial family advisors. Many of the consorts to the emperors were daughters of the Fujiwara. And in this area in Kohata, there are over 30 ancient graves. And as I look out the back window, one of them is just meters away from where I'm sitting now.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes, because we get deer in the woodland at the back as well. I mean, this is interesting. Probably 99.9% coincidence, but we have a visiting deer that comes in the woodlands at the back, and I often post photos or videos of this deer, wild deer, online. And the deer was a sacred animal to the Fujiwara. It was a messenger of the gods, connected to one of the major temples in Nara, which is why the deer are in Nara. So, and then I put it together and think, oh, wow, this is a Fujiwara gravesite, and there's a deer that keeps coming and visiting here. You could quite easily tie a story.
Yeah, absolutely. I did an episode of Supernatural Japan on the messengers from the gods about the deer of Nara. And so there you go, a Fujiwara gravesite in your backyard and a deer that keeps appearing.
Yeah. And so just this nice woodland that I look out the window onto has this feeling of, something supernatural connection.
That is.
And most likely there's no connection whatsoever, but you can get a feeling.
Yeah, you get absolutely. I'm curious. You've been on the podcast before many times, talking about different places, and again, since I've got this kind of new growing audience, which I'm very thankful and excited about, who are listening, there's, I guess people have asked me, they're like, Kevin, you're like, are there a lot of places to do episodes on? And I said, I could just continue to do Supernatural Japan forever. I'd never run out of topics. I'd never run out of things. Now, of course, when you do a cursory Google search for Haunted Japan or something, you always find the same 10 places. You always find the same. And I've done those, that low-hanging fruit, like, the Sunshine 60 building or something like that. But there are just so many fascinating places. I'm curious. Obviously, you're based in Kyoto. A lot of the stuff you do is in the kind of Kyoto area, the Kansai area of Japan.
Yeah.
Are there any kind of bucket list supernatural, spooky, paranormal places anywhere in Japan that you were very curious to go to one day if you had the opportunity?
The one that was on the top of my bucket list, I went to 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
That was the Masuda no Iwafune, the Rock Ship of Masuda. And that was featured a few years ago on the TV show Ancient Aliens. And it's just this basically big rock in the middle of a bamboo forest.
You've blogged about this quite a bit. You've written about it extensively.
Yeah. And that was one of those places where I really wanted to go. And I found myself a couple of years ago in Nara on a family day out. There was a place that my son wanted to go to, connected to his studies, and we went out there. And I looked at the map and I saw, we're not far. And my wife and daughter said, well, we're a bit tired. It was late in the day then. And my wife and daughter got the train home. It was about an hour on the train from Nara to Kyoto. And my son and I, we jumped on the train in the opposite direction. And it was about 15, 20 minutes away on the train, and we went. And it was funny. It's not signposted, so we were looking at Google Maps, and we got close to where we thought it was, and I could see this woodland, and I asked this lady on the street, in Japanese, where is the Masuda no Iwafune? And the response was, "Eh?"
Yeah, I was going to think. I wouldn't think many people would know what that was, right?
Maybe I just came across the wrong person. And we walked around a bit. We realized we was looking at the map wrong, and we found it. And you're going through this woodland, which had a feeling, and suddenly it opens up, and there's this huge rock, which is smooth on one side, cut away on the top with cuboid shapes into the top, a grid pattern on one side, absolutely massive. And it was quite breathtaking, because you look at it and you just think, this shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And even the sign at the front of it, which was from the local government, said, we don't know what this is.
Wow.
And then not far from there, there's another shrine called Iwafune Jinja, which is the rock ship shrine. And this is a huge rock which was said to be originated as a spacecraft. One of the grandson of the sun goddess came down from the heavens, and then it turned into a rock. And there's a cave system that you climb underneath. So those two places were top of my bucket list. So moved up there now is a place in Tokyo.
Okay.
I'd like to visit the gravesite of Taira no Masakado.
Okay.
So, and this is one which would be good for an episode in itself. Taira no Masakado was a disgruntled samurai who had designs on being the emperor himself in the 10th century. And he was eventually killed and beheaded at the Battle of Kojima in 940, and his head was brought to Kyoto and stuck on a bamboo spike on the banks of the Kamo River as a warning to anybody else who might want to have any ideas of replacing the emperor. And his head was said to scream in the night, where is my body? Where is my murdered body?
Wow.
And then the head disappeared.
Okay.
And reappeared in a village in an area of what is now Tokyo. And it was buried, and apparently the burial site is still there. And I believe it's in one of the financial districts of Tokyo.
Okay.
But they've built around it because too many accidents were happening. After the war and the Americans had a base in the area, they decided to turn the grave site into a car park, and they started digging. And then construction material started, people using the construction material started having accidents. And, there's lots of stories connected to it. And I think one of the buildings next to the gravesite now is a bank. And this might sound strange, but I believe that they opened an account for Taira no Masakado to appease him.
Oh, really?
And they clean his grave, and they put flowers, and they do ceremonies at the grave. And there's been stories of people taking photographs, and on some of the photographs there's this grainy image of a disheveled-looking samurai who they believe is the ghost of Taira no Masakado. So that's next time I get to Tokyo, I want to have a walk over to the grave of Taira no Masakado.
That sounds like a fascinating place to go, for sure.
So if there's any listeners in Tokyo and they take a photograph, let us know how it comes out.
Absolutely. Wow. Huh. That sounds like a fascinating place. I bet for some reason I have a feeling that recent guest on the show, Riki Okanda, would probably have an idea about that one. She seems to know, be very well versed in the kind of spookier side of Japan and just the kind of history in general. Well, that's really cool. I don't want to keep you much longer. It is a holiday where you are. It's a holiday here. It's rainy outside, but I'm probably going to be getting outdoors with my family maybe relatively soon. So before I go, though, before I say farewell to you, I want to shout this out, of course, to the listeners. If you are in Japan, folks listening in the Kyoto area, and you are interested in seeing a side of Kyoto that maybe you normally wouldn't, Philip's your man. So, Philip, what do you offer some guiding services, right?
Yeah. I mean, basically, my passion is trying to get people away from Kinkakuji, Kiyomizudera, Fushimi Inara Taisha, and get people seeing sides of Kyoto that are much more interesting, much more scenic, more historical background, off the beaten track, and get people to come to Kyoto and leave having really enjoyed the real Kyoto.
Yeah.
Not complained about too many people or restaurants or shops that don't want foreign tourists coming in. Trying to show people the real side of Kyoto. It's a great place, really is. And I've got set tours, or if somebody has a certain location, I can, set up a route in the area that they want to go to. The website is www.hiddenpathskyoto.com, or they can even contact me. Maybe if they can't find me through yourself, drop you a message.
Yeah.
Or through X.
Yeah, absolutely. So Philip's quite active on X. Again, the website is hiddenpathskyoto.com, or you can message me. You reach out to me at supernaturaljapan.com, and I can connect you with Philip.
I get so many headaches every month.
It could be chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for those who have 14 or fewer headache days a month. Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Why wait? Ask your doctor. Visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Yeah.
And just quickly, Kevin, you mentioned Ricky Okada.
Yeah.
We had a little conversation on X this morning because she was posting some things to look out for in May. She generally posts every month a little things to look out for in Japan. And as we said, May the 3rd in Japan has got a paranormal date.
Very connected to just a recent episode of the podcast. Yeah, what is that special date? What is it? What's going on?
The Tsuchinoko Festival.
Oh, wow.
And as you say, you did an episode on the cryptic creature, the Tsuchinoko, recently, which is like a fat-bodied snake.
That jumps, it hops.
Yeah. And May the 3rd in Gifu Prefecture is the date. I think this festival has been going on since 1989. Wow. And they basically get together and go hunting for this cryptid creature in the hills, mountains, or woodlands around the area. And there is a reward for anybody who finds one. And since 1989, nobody has found one as yet.
That's right. And the funny thing is, like, when you actually do like a Google search for the Tsuchinoko Festival, you'll see that there's like this one thing that popped up right away is an article from 2023, the Mainichi newspaper, and there's like hundreds of people, like families and kids, kind of like up on the side of a hill, like looking for the Tsuchinoko.
Yeah, it's like a family event, isn't it? You buy a ticket to go searching, you join a group and go off into the country.
I have to admit, I just love it. There's a lot of places in America, I'm sure in Canada, I'm sure in the UK too, that have really embraced kind of spooky things or the cryptids and turn them into like festivals, which are great fun ways to generate, like revenue for the local economy of towns. I heard there's this one in I think it's in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, called the Squonk Festival. So the squonk is apparently a cryptid, this little animal that appeared in the forest, and he's so ugly that he cries, and he just sits there on the ground crying because he's so ugly, and then he ends up crying so much that he literally just kind of dissolves and disappears, and it's called the Squonk. So they have a Squonk Festival in the summertime. The Mothman Festival has become a huge event. I recently watched a video of some guy on YouTube called the Carpetbagger, who went to, a couple of years ago, went to the Mothman Festival. And I'm like, wow, I mean, I totally want to go to that. I really want to go. It looks so fun. And I bet there'd be lots of wacky people and fun people to meet.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so it's really cool to see things like that. Well, again, Philip, thank you for coming back on Supernatural Japan. Again, one more time, everyone listening, go to hiddenpathskyoto.com to find out more about Philip's books. You've written a lot of books about spooky things in Japan, Paranormal Japan, Paranormal Kansai, Paranormal Kyoto, the Hidden Paths Kyoto book series. I will put links to this, guys, in the show notes. Go check it out. And I'll share on my social media. So, Philip, thank you so much.
No, thanks. Always a pleasure. And hopefully we can get together later in the year for another trek.
Absolutely. We'll be back in Japan at some point in 2026, and we can get together. And this time around, my son, like I mentioned, my son wants to come along because he later on, after our last trek, when I mentioned where we went, he was jealous. So he's a history-loving kid. So it'll be great. All right. Well, that's that. And thank you. Thanks for listening to Supernatural Japan. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like to help our show grow, please leave a review in Apple Podcasts and a rating on Spotify or wherever else you listen to us. It really makes a difference. It really helps people find us in the algorithm. Now, to see photos of all the places Phillip and I talked about, you gotta follow the Supernatural Japan Instagram at Supernatural Japan, as well as our Facebook group. Links are in the show notes and over at supernaturaljapan.com. Now, everyone, Supernatural Japan listeners, especially those of you who plan to visit Japan, I need to talk to you. I really want to recommend contacting Phillip in person if you plan to come to Japan and you want a unique, history-filled experience. If you plan to visit Kyoto and want to avoid those cliched Kyoto sites, reach out to him at hiddenpathskyoto.com. Now, I've experienced some amazing Kyoto adventures led by Phillip. They were incredible, and you definitely won't regret it. So go contact him if you want to have a great tour. Now, everyone, thank you so much for listening to Supernatural Japan. If you've ever had an eerie experience in a place with a past, we'd love to hear your story. So please reach out to us on the contact form at supernaturaljapan.com or email me at supernaturaljapan@gmail.com. And one more thing, I just wanted to mention again that I have created a Google map for all of you folks, my gift to you, so you can have a spookier time when you visit Japan. It shows many of the locations, the different places I've talked about in past episodes of Supernatural Japan, and you can find pins showing the locations, along with information about the location history, the related episode, and some photos. And this is absolutely perfect for Supernatural Japan fans who plan to visit Japan and want to see some of these spooky locations in person. Now, you can find the link and the map of the Supernatural Japan map over at supernaturaljapan.com. Also, it's in the bio area of our Instagram. So go check it out. And that's it for this week, folks. I really want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to download this podcast and listen to the show. If it wasn't for you amazing listeners, I wouldn't be doing this. So everyone, I'll see you next time, and make sure you stay spooky.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's Omni-Shade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.